Welcome to the fall 2022 edition of Open Source Matters, where we cover the latest news in open source technology. I'm your host, Ben Lloyd-Pearson. Let's dive in. GitHub is back with more improvements to help open source developers improve supply chain security. They're rolling out Sigstore as an option for all projects that publish packages to the NPM repository. Sigstore is a project from the OpenSSF that makes it easier for developers to cryptographically sign software packages in a way that enables users to validate that the software they downloaded via their package manager matches the source code in the software's repository. In the past, this validation has been difficult to build because it requires developers to register and manage cryptographic keys that often have a long lifespan. Sigstore reduces the barrier to entry for developers to guarantee the safety of packages they publish, which is an immensely positive step in the right direction to help open source developers everywhere. GitHub seeks developer feedback on this change before it's completely rolled out to all users, so if you have opinions about software security that are relevant to Sigstore and NPM, I encourage you to head over to the GitHub issue for the RFC and add your input. Our next story fits squarely in the news to keep tabs on category because it may have major legal implications for open source software. The EFF is facing off against the U.S. Department of Treasury over recent sanctions that were put in place for Tornado Cash, a blockchain and cryptocurrency that is used to obscure the source of money that is sent through the network. In early August, the Office of Foreign Assets Control put Tornado Cash on the specially designated Nationals sanction list, claiming that more than $7 billion have been laundered through the network by multiple nefarious organizations around the world. The problem is that the announcement refers to three separate names: Tornado Cash Classic, and Tornado Cash Nova. The latter two refer to GitHub repositories, making it unclear what exactly is being restricted. Given the lack of clarity in the definitions, GitHub decided to play it safe and removed all Tornado Cash repositories from their platform, a decision that the EFF disagrees with. EFF is basing their argument on Bernstein versus U.S. Department of State, a court case from 1996 that establishes source code as being protected as free speech. They believe that the actions of the Treasury Department and GitHub could have a chilling effect on the publication of open source code. So, as a response, they've teamed up with Matthew Green, a computer science professor at Johns Hopkins Information Security Institute, to publish the code and mount a legal defense against the U.S. Treasury Department. This is likely to have major implications for open source developers around the world, so it's definitely something we should all be keeping an eye on. Head over to the EFF site to learn more about the situation or to provide support in their efforts to protect open source software. Now, let's move on to some other open source news. FOSS has launched a new initiative to promote open source events all over the world, and they need your help. In a post to their blog, they describe a problem they faced with being unaware of events for open source subjects until the event was already underway. To solve this problem, they've published a new event calendar that highlights any and all meetups, conferences, user groups, and all other events of any size that would be of interest to open source developers. Itemizing all these events is a monumental task, so they're asking for your help to submit events to include in the calendar. If you have any events that you think should be included on this list, head over to the FOSS website to fill out their submission form. Our good friends over at Alma Linux have announced a new election to increase the amount of influence their community has over the project's direction. If you don't know Alma Linux, they're a Red Hat Enterprise Linux clone that was launched in response to changes the CentOS community made in late 2020. Until now, the Alma Linux board of directors consisted of a small selection of people that were influential in the early days of the project. Now that they've grown considerably in the past 2 years, they're looking to increase the amount of influence the community has over the project. To that end, they've announced an election for a new board of directors that takes place in September. If you want to help determine the future of this project, head over to their election wiki page that has all the information. Now it's time for the open source launch rapid fire. Here are the new projects we're watching. Motionity, a web-based motion graphics editor that's an alternative to After Effects and Canva. Snoop Forms, build multi-page forms via React or a built-in no-code builder. Hanko, a passwordless user authentication system. Jazzer.js, a fuzzing tool for Node.js that's based on libfuzzer. Fluent Emoji, a collection of 3D emojis from Microsoft. AdGuard DNS, privacy protection against trackers and ads from AdGuard. Velox, a database acceleration library for high-performance data processing from Meta. Persia, a decentralized package network for Docker image validation. Bloom, an educational stock market simulation game. That's your Open Source Matters for fall 2022. We'll see you soon.